going to be hearing from today. Thank you again for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Lopez, and good afternoon, committee members. Joining me today, we have the Charter Office team, Robert Kelly, Felicia Canty, and Shakira Jacobs-Vasquez, who serve as the team and the point of contacts for the schools presenting today, as well as Chief Academic Officer Irene Parisi. So all three schools with us here today were before you in the fall and have joined us today to do a progress update for this year. I want to remind you that although the schools did prepare an overview sheet, that data was limited this year, so we are relying on a lot of self-reported data for progress between the fall and the spring. So let's go ahead and begin with our first agenda item, which is Great Oaks. As a reminder, Great Oaks opened in 2014. They serve students in grades 6 through 11. Joining us here today is Principal John Scalise and Board Chairperson Susan Briggs, as well as a few other folks that I'll have John introduce in just a few minutes. Great Oaks was last renewed in March of 2019 for a term of 2 years with conditions that included corrective action in the areas of minimizing suspensions, improving attendance and academic performance, and also certification compliance. Their next renewal evaluation will be this upcoming school year in 21-22. So while the school's leadership will speak to you about their progress this year in more detail, I really wanted to acknowledge one particular effort. This past fall, I had shared with you that Great Oaks had progressed from 41% certification compliance to 71%, and I'm happy to share that they are now 100% in compliance with certification. Well done to the Great Oaks team for this immense effort, and really look forward to continuing to remain in 100% compliance in the years moving forward. But I know this wasn't an easy feat, so I'm sure the committee will ask some follow-up questions around that. So at this point, John, I'm going to turn it over to you and then open it up to the committee for questions.
Lisa, thank you so much. Dr. Lopez and all guests and board members, I want to first start by saying thank you for giving us an opportunity to share some of our progress. I do want to introduce some of the members that are here with us today. So we do have our board chair, Susan Briggs. We have the executive vice president of the Great Oaks Foundation, and that's Josh Thomases. And then we have the person primarily responsible for our 100% certification, and that is our director of operations, Latoya Hubbard. So that is our team that is here today. And I do just want to highlight some of the progress we've made, especially around the corrective action, and just take us back just a half a step. And I want to just give a very big thank you for helping us craft and direct the corrective action to Felicia, Robert, and Lisa, for being in just constant communication with us during the entire progress of our school and our journey. Always willing to answer questions, always willing to be there for us. So I just want to acknowledge their contribution to this effort. So over the last year, obviously in the midst of a pandemic, things obviously had to shift. We have gone from trying to bring students in to completely virtual to a hybrid model to actually bringing students in for what equated to 3 hours before we had to shut down again because of an outbreak, to now back into school. So a lot of ebb and flow between our model, and we did take a lot of learning away from it. One of the things I do want to highlight is that we did put a considerable amount of effort into developing our learning management system for the ability to create a blended environment of distance learning opportunities with in-person learning opportunities, so that our students who feel more comfortable with technology could use that technology while even in person in school. And it was easily slid to when those students had to be out of school. So one of the things that we really took a long, hard look at was our NWEA testing, which really indicated that despite our students having these challenges, they still made considerable progress from where they started the year prior. So we were very happy that for our 6th through 11th grade students, 56% of our students met their projected growth over the course of just fall to winter. We are doing our next round of NWEA in June, but that'll be after SBAC. We're actually very interested in taking SBAC right now to see how we perform on a state monitored measure. And we're also we're very excited to see how students perform on the SBA in person versus virtual also. So that's another aspect we're looking at. What we did notice with our NWEA is that there was only a slight variation of maybe 1 percentage point or 2 percentage points between students who were in person and students who were at home. So parents made very good choices about sending students to school, sending them home based on our model. We had 40% of our middle school population actually testing at national average for reading. So not just making progress, but really now being able to compete with students across the nation. Just under 30% of our students were testing at math proficiency as well. So some significant progress there over time. And in terms of a highlight for academic, I really just want to focus on our 3-year cohort data. So we've been able to now, as a team, we've been together for 3 years. This is our 3rd year, all of us together. We've had very high retention rate also for our staff. And what we've been able to see is the students who started with us in 6th grade, 70% or just under 70%, 69.9% of those students met their projected growth over a 3-year span. And just under 60%, so 58% met their projected growth in math over those 3 years. So while those students have started and stayed with us, we've really seen the accumulation of growth over time. And again, a lot of that has to do with the hyper focus around the ELA and the math, the targeted intervention with the changes to our tutor model, as well as changes to our curriculum and delivery, really focusing on just solid instruction for all of our students to start to raise everybody, seeing it as a delivery of instruction concern more so than an intervention issue. What we will continue to work on is the development of our ability to provide opportunities for students outside of school. So coming to school full day, coming to school full time, but Saturday Academy still living online. So we do have a Saturday Academy right now with a very high attendance rate. Part of what our parents have told us is it's because they don't have to work out transportation to the school on Saturday. So making that available by still continuing to provide technology. As well as some after-school opportunities for students to continue online learning after school hours. So really extending the day at a very minimal cost and making those opportunities available. Another area, before I turn it over to Latoya to talk about teacher certification, I want to highlight is around chronic absenteeism. So I want to thank Carrie Sullivan specifically for running those workshops. As well as really just helping us focus on best practices and implementing them with fidelity. So what we've done is we took a very aggressive approach to our absentee committees where they actually meet every day as opposed to weekly or bi-weekly. So our attendance team checks in daily. They have a 5-day rotation that becomes very important where our culture team, since we've had a significant reduction in disciplinary issues, thanks in part to restorative practices, are able to carve out time every day to reach out to families of students who are absent that week or absent for 2 days in a row. We've really drilled down on getting our data systems complete, which was a big part of our corrective action plan, making sure that our teachers know how to take accurate attendance. So we know that the data we're getting is right, making sure that the attendance team has that data in a timely fashion, and then creating plans for students who are experiencing issues with absenteeism. The hiring of a nurse with significantly more experience to help students and parents reach out and connect with community resources if there is an illness, to create plans of wellness for students that are in the building and experiencing sickness has been very critical to our students' ability to stay in school and to access education when they are in school. We have gone way past the idea around perfect attendance, and we celebrate improved attendance. We celebrate also how students contribute when they are in attendance, so that all students are welcome based on how they can perform. We don't want to simply reward based on perfection, because if you're sick, you should be staying home. So how do we celebrate our students who are contributing also? We will continue to provide connections and develop our relationship now with the Southwest Community Health Center to address other needs of our community, as that they have now become a growing partner with what we've been doing for overall wellness. So our big highlight also is around teacher certification, and for that, I'm actually going to turn it over to Latoya Hubbard.
Great, thank you, John. And also, just to echo John's sentiments, I'd like to also thank the board for having us today and giving us the opportunity to talk about our progress. So in terms of certification, one of the things that we did closing out the end of last year and going into this year is for all of our returning staff who may have had expiring certification, as well as all of our staff that were coming in with certification, we made sure that each person was put on a certification plan, right? And so they came into the school year knowing that, you know, these are the things that are required for your certification, and this is what you will need to do within this certain amount of time frame. And within those plans were different resources that we offered to our staff. And so some of those resources included partnerships with the Relay program, local colleges and universities. We committed to conversations with the CSDE in terms of what requirements teachers needed to meet in order to complete their certification. And very special thanks to Sharon Fuller at the CSDE, as well as Julianne Frost, who really supported us in terms of specific items that teachers needed in order to complete their certification. In addition to that, we really educated teachers on guidelines around certification. And so now all of our teachers have a healthy understanding of exactly what it is that they need in order to be certified and maintain certification. We increased accountability, so teachers were required to meet with John and I once a month to discuss progress in terms of where they are. We also developed certification plans that included some of our AmeriCorps volunteers who are interested in becoming teachers. And so prior to them even stepping into that role, we started that process of these are all the things that you need. So, you know, mid-year, we had some of our AmeriCorps volunteers actually transition into teaching roles. And they were able to do so with their certification. And finally, we also offered support in terms of program reimbursement and testing fees, as well as partnering with some of our internal tenure staff at our foundation to support with tutoring around testing. We know that, you know, one of the big hurdles in certification is teachers passing some of those certification exams. And so we were able to offer tutoring for some of those exams through members of our foundation network. And so with all of those different things in place, we were able to accomplish that 100% certification. And we plan to continue this type of certification education for teachers and include it in their, you know, their professional development coming into each year moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Very impressive. Thank you so much. Thank you. Are you finished with your presentation? Because I want to ask my fellow board members if they have questions that they would like to ask from you. I'm very impressed, John, Latoya, and congratulate you on coming back today with a very impressive improvement result. So I'll say personally, Erin, Don, Woody, do you have any questions for them?
If I could, Estella,
Please, Don.
I also want to mention that I am also impressed, especially with the 100% certification. But now I'm going to ask a tougher question, though. What does your diversity of your staff look like? Hello.
Me and Latoya are looking at each other to see. You want to go for that one, Latoya?
Sure. Yeah, sure, absolutely. So I would say that, and I'm, kind of throwing a number out there off the top of my head, but I would say that probably about, I can look at our admin team, in particular, just starting, from top down, and it's extremely diverse. We have 6 members of our admin team, 4 women of color on our admin team, which is inclusive of, African American background and Latina background. So extremely diverse in terms of our administrative team. And then when I look at our staff population, we have a very high percentage of staff members of color in our building. And I think that it's something that we've been extremely intentional about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good enough. Now you also mentioned that you're going to you're taking the SBAC or have taken it. This is the first time for you, or
No. So we've been
you just haven't done it in a while?
We haven't done it. It was postponed the year prior because of the pandemic. So we're currently in process of doing the assessment. We finished our ELA this week. We start our math next week.
Okay. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Right.
Good luck to you.
Thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Erin, do you have any questions or comments?
I have both. Again, I too am so impressed with your compliance, and I congratulate you all on obtaining that. It was great news to hear. It was great news to hear when Lisa updated us in the fall, and it's even greater to hear now. I do have a question about your attendance, and you had mentioned in your write-up as well as your oral testimony about some of the things that you do to celebrate attendance and growth. Can you just give some examples of how that's done, and just give some examples about that?
Sure. So one of the things we do to promote attendance is sometimes it's not by making everything about actual attendance. So we have a very active morning announcement program that's on our Instagram and our Facebook pages. Our teachers give shout outs every Friday to students who have displayed either improved attendance or coming into all of their meetings online. So they get celebrated weekly that way. We have acknowledgement through certificates. We also have attendance contests where when students are attending school, they're getting raffles for certain prizes. So we do small prizes. We do things up to AirPods also for monthly contests, Grubhub gift cards for some of our high school students. So we try to incentivize it as much as possible. One of the things that we also do is we talk a lot to our staff that when we're talking about the ability to function as a school that isn't reliant on punitive measures, that the relationship aspect is so important. And part of that is acknowledging when a student hasn't been in for a day or two and taking time to send the email or pick up the phone and say, hey, even with our high school students, I noticed you weren't here today. Are you okay? Is everything fine? And just building that consistent relationship so when there does come a time that there needs to be mediation, the relationships are established around things such as, well, I know that teacher cares if I'm in the building. I know that person knows what my life is like outside of 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock. So a lot of it has been around the relationship aspect also, to be very transparent, and small acknowledgments up to contests and larger acknowledgments.
And then on the other end, for those that do have a chronic absentee problem, do you know the reasonings behind that? Is there a team that looks into like why or where this child is?
Yeah, so our attendance team is comprised of our director of climate and culture, the head of school for either middle school or high school, our guidance counselor, social worker, and our assistant principal. They then get that information from the teachers who are making the phone calls, as well as our culture team members. There are very few students that we're not able to get reliable information about regarding what is going on with that student. If it's an issue that we can help with, so sometimes it's something is simply communicated as a lost bus pass. But the student is afraid to kind of say they lost. Like, we're able to get ahead of that very quick because, like I said, we're meeting every day as opposed to weekly or biweekly.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. How about you, Woody? Do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, Ms. Hubbard, you mentioned Relay, and I'm just curious about what role Relay played in helping your teachers to gain certification.
Yeah, absolutely. So one, our partnership with Relay is inclusive of the degree program, right? So we have some teachers that are a part of Relay for the purpose of certification, and some that are part of it just for the purpose of obtaining that master's degree that is inclusive of certification. What Relay will do for members of our school community that are in the program is, one, they will evaluate their transcript. They support in sending up paperwork to the CSDE. And additionally, they also provide coaching and tutoring around the exams that are required for certification. And they're able to do that. Well, now it's been virtual, but prior to that, they were able to actually do that right in person in the building. And in addition to that, Relay also services anyone that has ever been a part of their program. So we have teachers in our building that were not certified, that had graduated from the Relay program, but had difficulty passing some of those exams. And they were eligible for temporary certifications at the time that are now permanently certified because they were able to get tutored through the Relay, extended tutoring through the Relay program in order to pass those exams.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Anything else, Woody? I want to join the my committee members in congratulating, giving you kudos, John, Latoya, and of course Susan, the chair of the committee, and Josh. This is incredible. We are extremely delighted and also proud to see the improvement that you have shown. And above all, we know that Bridgeport has a need for schools of quality. So to reach these goals and to continue to aspire to even getting better, it's really, really powerful and important. This is, for me, I'm ready to jump with joy and shout. And it shows also something that we truly believe, that when there's a will, there's a way. In terms of attendance, what you said about attendance, we have so many schools that are dealing with attendance issues, and somehow they're not able to get out of the situation. They put in place things and they don't work. I like very much the connection between attendance data, meaningful data, accurate data, and improvement, and how to address it. And what you said, to celebrate not attendance but engagement, students being in school. And of course, the certification is really outstanding. And I'm delighted to know that you're working with the academics. So I don't know if it's the purple hair, John, but I think, whatever you're doing with your team and with your staff, we truly celebrate it, congratulate you. And I know Lisa will be using, because we always know that when a school shows best practices, others can learn from it. So I know Lisa will be doing that and recognizing the work you have done. So thank you. And again, I'm just delighted for not only for your school, but for Bridgeport. Really, they deserve to have a school of quality. So thank you so much again.
Dr. Lopez, thank you so much also.
Thank you again. Lisa, anything else?
Great. No, I appreciate it. Thank you to your team, John, for all your efforts up till this point, and we look forward to the continued success.
Exactly.
Okay.
Great. Thank
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
all.
So at this time, we're going to transition to the next agenda item, which is the bridge from Bridgeport. So Principal Elliott, if you are on, please, there you go.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. So I'll go ahead and begin with an introduction, and then I'll turn it over to you. So from the bridge in Bridgeport, we have Tyrone Elliott, who is the Executive Director and High School Principal. As a reminder, the bridge opened in 1997, serving students in grades 7 through 12. In March of 2020, the bridge came before the State Board of Education for its renewal, from which a one-year renewal with probation was issued. And the conditions included corrective action in chronic absenteeism, suspension, academic performance for ELA and math, and to bring the school special education program into compliance. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Elliott to give us a bit more details about those areas, and then open it up for questions.
Good afternoon, folks. I just wanted to give this opportunity to thank the board for giving us a chance to update you on our progress. I also like to thank the turnaround office. They've been very, very helpful with fielding phone calls, emails, and questions along the way. Bridge Academy is a small, caring public school charter with a rigorous learning environment. This allows us to focus on social emotional learning with the goals of shaping young lives. I feel like we have a culturally responsive classroom, and with the turnaround office's help, we were able to improve in 3 key areas: attendance, climate, achievement, as well as special education. With attendance and climate, they're really linked together. When a child or a student, feels welcome and wants to be at school, that improves attendance. So we created an attendance committee and a subcommittee, and we have an attendance team that makes phone calls and text messages daily, checking in with families. Our subcommittee deals with barriers with parents that may prevent students from attending school. One of the things we've been looking at to address attendance has been to pay for school buses for high school in the morning. We lost our school buses around 3 or 4 years ago, and we saw our chronic absenteeism rise in the high school. So we're exploring, and we're probably going to do that. We're going to have buses in the morning, along with the city bus passes in the afternoon, to try to address that. We've also engaged in home visits. Thanks to Lisa's team, we've attended a lot of PD on Tuesdays, to Talk Tuesdays, and home visits, as well as family engagement, really was a center, especially in the age of the pandemic. So we've already started home visits. I'll go on a series of them myself this summer. I actually have one scheduled for Saturday, in order to engage families. Our chronic absenteeism dropped from 17.5% last year to 13.4% as of last month, according to EdSite. We've also partnered with local agencies such as Child Guidance, Full Circle Youth Empowerment, to really address wraparound services for students. As a school, we have a vision of educating the whole child, and that includes social emotional learning. We've hired an SEL coordinator who's going to run our social emotional program this coming fall, to address students' needs coming back from the pandemic and having to relearn how to be social in a school environment, and kind of getting away from the screen a little bit. As far as achievement, these are self-reported numbers. Our SAT scores went up 51 points from last year to this year. We have a robust partnership with Housatonic Community College. Our valedictorian has about a semester in a class already finished from her Housatonic partnership. So we've opened up that partnership not only to just seniors, but to juniors, as well as rising sophomores. We think it's important to get, students actual college credits and college experience in high school in order to better serve them down the road. We've got MAP growth in all of our grades, 7 through 12, from fall to winter. We really worked hard on accelerated learning in the high school as well as the middle school. In the middle school, we used a program called Achieve 3000, as well as LLI, which is a small group instruction program. In high school, we used IXL in smaller groups in order to work on skills that would benefit students not only in the classroom, but taking the MAP as well as SAT preparation, using question stems, using different skills that they may or may not be weak in. We also hired an instructional coach who really looked at the data and looking at student work protocol in order to improve instruction in the classroom. As far as our special education, we revised all our IEP goals. We have one-on-one meetings between the special education teachers and the classroom teachers, mediated by their instructional coach, going over assignments and see how they can better fit each student with an IEP in the classroom. We have a specialized reading program called Sundays, which we have students evaluated and working with the Sundays and using MAP as a barometer of their progress. We have monthly SPED meetings. We have continued PD on accommodations, modifications, universal design for learning to create more independence in the classroom for our SPED students. Although we want them to have the support, we also want to give and empower them to be able to succeed and take those scaffoldings away as they gain those skills that are important. We recognize that we've had some growth, but we also recognize that there's some work to do. And with the upcoming summer, we have a 5-week summer academy for students. And with the grant money from ESSER 2 as well as ESSER 3, we're creating a specialized, or a small group rather, reading program in the high school. Because of the pandemic, we kind of lost our reading program. Our reading program consists of physical books, taking from the library, and being able to read and test for comprehension. And we understand that students haven't done that for a whole year due to a mix of students being online or having a social distance. So our high school is going to implement the small group instruction program for reading, as well as a math literacy program. What we find is our students are really good at following the recipe or the plan of computation, but they really have trouble with conceptual thinking in math. So we've been collaborating with a math instruction consultant to develop a small group instruction math program, and that as well will start in the summer and carry on to in the fall. Suspensions have gone down tremendously. We went from 19% a few years ago to 2.5% last year to 0% this year. Some of that is due to the pandemic, and a lot of it is due to our hard work with the state and PBIS, and really adopting the restorative practice mindset. We're also, with the SEL coordinator, implementing the CASTLE model to support and build emotional learning to kind of go hand in hand with the restorative practice mindset. You know, we've really developed a philosophy of assess and adjust, and being able to see, you know, what we implement, the data from it, if it worked, how do we continue to get better in it, and if it did not work, what other processes or strategies can we use in order to attack the same problem. So, you know, I appreciate the opportunity to come and highlight some of the things that we've done well and some of the things that we're looking to do next year.
Good. Thank you, Tyrone. Again, I apologize for my connection not working for a few minutes there. I'm going to ask my fellow board members if they have questions or comments for you. So go ahead if you have Erin, Dawn, or Woody.
Yeah, I just have one question for Mr. Elliott. I think I heard you right. Did you say your partnership with the Housatonic College, it's open to even sophomores?
Yeah, so there's two partnerships. There's the high school partnership where there's a there is where the state pays for the class, and there's a strict requirement. There's a GPA requirement. What we've decided to do is we've taken money out of our budget, and we're offering classes such as personal finance, business 101, as well as a history class through our own partnership to, you know, give some students who may or may not have had a good freshman year or may have fallen off a little bit sophomore year, but would benefit to be exposed to a college class. So yes, we do have sophomores who are straight A students and score very well on their assessments. So we're able to open up slots based on you know, how many juniors or seniors, even to sophomores. And you know, hopefully, my plan is if we're really able to do this well, that we can even offer, you know, maybe second semester freshmen, and really, you know, give them the opportunity to gain college credit for free. You know, with the rising costs of going to a university or going to college, for a student to be able to get that experience. I think it's one of the reasons why our students get accepted to college at a high rate. A lot of our students have college credit, and normally we haven't been supporting them. We would sign them up, we would purchase the book for them, and they would go to the school, and their grades and their communication with the professor is 100% on them. And I think when colleges see that, they feel like our students are prepared because they've been exposed to that. So if we bring them on our campus, that's one less student we have to worry about either getting homesick or not being able to do the work academically.
That's fabulous. What a great time. You know, such great opportunity and exposure for kids that age. Really impressive. Thank you.
This is Woody. You mentioned how you reduced your suspensions and expulsions quite substantially. And how did you plan to do that? And do you have any best practices that you would share with other schools since you were so successful in that?
Sure. I think it came from a mindset shift in administration. One of the major hurdles is, you know, especially from teachers, they think of consequences. And my biggest point to drive to them was a consequence doesn't mean suspension. They're not synonymous. And we know that sending a student home for a week doesn't mean that's actually a consequence. Most kids will sign up for it so they can go home and be alone and not have any, you know, body in the house for a week so they can play video games and never do any work for those 5 days. So it really came from a mind shift of us is this: sending a kid home for a week is no good. One, they're going to come back behind, and two, it doesn't address the the issue with how the community was broken, right? So what we tried to look at is how can we make the community whole, right? And that doesn't mean there aren't any consequences. It just means that suspension isn't the first thing that comes to mind. But I think sometimes the easiest thing to do is just to say, I'll send you home for 2 weeks so I don't have to look at you, or the teacher feels better about it, but that doesn't address the root cause of the issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else, Woody?
No, okay.
Don,
Mr. Elliott,
go ahead, Don.
thank you for your presentation. I also am happy to see those suspension expulsion rate go down as low as it goes. Where is your board chair and the rest of your staff? Did they abandon you today, man?
No, no, sir. The Miss Markle, she emailed me. She had a situation where she had to take care of. And to be totally honest with you, I'd rather do this alone.
Rather do it yourself.
Yeah, at the end of the day, if I'm gonna blame somebody, I can blame myself.
I understand. I'm a lot like I like that. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Dr. Lopez, could I just say a couple words?
Please go ahead, Lisa.
So I want to take this opportunity to commend Mr. Elliott's leadership over the past year and a half. You know, as you recall, after the board meeting, he was last before us, it was an immediate shift for him to serve in this role. And from day one, he has been nothing but collaborative, receptive, inquisitive, and welcoming of the support. He is leveraging many different opportunities offered by the state, and including the Talk Tuesdays. You know, we talk about attendance. He is on there, as well as Rachel, the elementary principal, every week. He is present in all of our professional learning opportunities, and I want to thank you, Tyrone, specifically in this space for your leadership. This is not easy work. It continues to be a challenge, but you have taken it with grace, and look forward to continuing to work hard.
Thank you, Lisa. And I also want to echo what Lisa Lamenzo just said, because we know we were expecting a transcendental change in the school when you took over, and to see the progress and to see the commitment to continue the improvement is really very, very wonderful. Again, for the children, to see that they're in a space where high expectations are the norm. When they expect to attend, they're expected to attend and be there. And when the continuity and of academic learning will be provided. So I want to thank you for committing to that improvement. I want to thank you for what you have shared with us today. And although you are alone, I do know that this is teamwork, that you have many people with you supporting the work that you're doing. So they may not be here, but I hope you extend to them our thanks. And above all, that we truly appreciate to see the improvement in the school. And I also want to say that I do like your beer very much. It's very impressive. And
Thank you. I appreciate it. I think, you know, the team is dedicated to, you know, giving these students an opportunity to grow, which is really the key. You know, some of these kids and maybe in other settings wouldn't be able to get a second chance, and I think we're allowing, you know, these young people to grow and giving them the opportunity to see more and to be able to succeed. You know, without the staff, I wouldn't be here. I can't do everything. So the team has helped me a lot, and I want to be here. I'm dedicated to the school. It means a lot to me. So I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
No, thank you.
And
Thank you so
one
much.
last thing, if you don't mind, I would love to give a shout out to Asia. She is a valedictorian who escorted us last week during our visit. Robert and Shakira and I went down to the school, and she is a fine young lady with a bright future ahead of her, 13 credits, and already in college courses, and just really proud of her. So Asia, if you're watching, keep it up.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Mr. Elliott. And again, keep the good work. Especially, I truly appreciated what you said about, sending students home and not understanding that although you may not see them in the school, they may not be disruptive. That's not learning. That's not really a pedagogical tool. That's really the opposite. So I truly appreciate your embracing the philosophy that children and students need to be in school, and we need to work with them and ensure that they are engaged. So again, thank you so much for your work, and we will look forward to even more progress and continuity of effort next time. So thank you again.
Thank you.
You guys
Thank
have a
you.
good day.
You too. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you,
So-
Lisa. I don't know what you gave, what water you had them drink, but this is great news, Lisa. So thank you so much. So
But
next
there's
presentation. Ooh,
there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's important to recognize the progress.
Yes.
So there we go. So last up in today's committee meeting, we have Isaac School from New London. We are joined by Dr. Nicholas Spera, Executive Director, Principal Denise Dunning, and Board Chairperson Rich Muckle. Oh, and I also see Tanya Collins on there, Dean of Students, right, Tanya?
Yes, thank you. Yep.
Great. So for some context, Isaac opened in 1997, serving students in grades 6 through 8. In May of 2020, Isaac was issued a 3-year renewal with conditions to develop and implement corrective actions in the areas of climate and culture and academic performance for both ELA and math. Their next renewal is in 2024. And at this point, I want to turn it over to Dr. Spera to provide a progress update since the fall, as well as continued areas of focus moving forward. Dr. Spera.
Thank you. And thank you. Good to see you, Dr. Lopez, and every member of the board. So we're happy to report that we are making tremendous progress. In this crazy time of a pandemic, we've actually utilized that time to make a lot of growth in terms of developing systems and putting a lot of things in place. So we've utilized this time to be able to do some of those things that make all schools great. And so some of those pieces is we have been working very closely in partnership and collaboration, and great thanks to the charter office. And so I don't just say that because they're on this, I tell everybody about it. The work that we do continuously with them throughout the year has helped us gain the traction, and also in terms of even the feedback that we've been able to do. So I'm really thankful to that team first. One of our guiding lights that we're looking at is some of the corrective action pieces that came from the charter office, as well as NEASC standards. And so our school also in that same time frame will be going for accreditation. Some of those foundational elements align perfectly with what is being asked for in terms of our action plan moving forward. One of those pieces also comes in terms of, if you're going to increase scores, you got to have a sound and solid curriculum. And so for the first time, Isaac has a curriculum in every single course that is being offered this school year. It's also accessible to all families on our website, and they will have the opportunity to see, while we are teaching it, what's in store for this child. And so we even break it up in alignment with, using understanding by design features. So even moving our next step is now the courses that we weren't able to offer in person here because of the pandemic and because we were still in that hybrid model. And so now that's writing that curriculum, and that will go in front of the board for approval. So then all courses in this school will still have a planned opportunity. Within the curriculum, we've also expanded our bilingual program. This is the first year of our bilingual program here. In the past, we only had one certified person who was a TESOL teacher. We've utilized ESSER II funds and also hired bilingual assistants. So we went from a department of 1 with a TESOL teacher, and now we have a department of 4. And so we're really putting our efforts into really giving the proper supports. And if you think about it, you know, we have over 50 students that are in the bilingual program, and then we have 50 special ed students. Well, there was a big discrepancy when you have, you know, 5 teachers for special ed for 50, but then you only had 1 for the 50. And so we really made sure that there's more equity and giving the opportunities to our English learners and their families. We talked last time about we have a liaison for our Spanish-speaking community. We're approximately 2/3 Hispanic, and that's paid dividends. You know, in our recent survey, we went down where it wasn't representative of our student population, the response from parents, where this time around it was. You know, we had over 50% of our families, our Hispanic families, complete the survey. And that's kind of the growth that I'm really excited to see, is how we're doing the outreach as well there. In terms of math and ELA, we've utilized the state of Connecticut and their assessment and the availability of IAB, internal assessment benchmarks, and now we're implementing those. Those have been really strong conversations that we've had to have in terms of the value of seeing that data and how to utilize that data to drive our instruction in the classrooms. That was a new thing. And if you talk about the opportunities to have real strong professional learning communities, we've also had to do a lot of professional development about what does it look like. So if I've been teaching for 15 years and I haven't used data, it's no fault to the teacher. It's how do we educate the teacher of what do I do with this data now? You're telling me to do this test, so what? And so we've done a real good job of having teacher leaders helping other teachers, and also the administrative team that's on this call today. I'm really grateful to the energy and enthusiasm they have to saying, hey, every student can succeed, and they definitely will. So in math and ELA, we are looking at how we're growing that way. We've implemented our SRBI team as well, and making sure those interventions are being done. And, you know, to be honest, SRBI this year has been kind of our triage team. You know, we've gone on home visits. We've had those remote learners that weren't engaged. And the benefit of that is we told them, why don't you get into school? And we're able to have those in-person conversations saying it's safe in our school. And so in the last, 2-3 months, we've gone for 55% of our kids remote. Now we're under 30%, and we're proud of that. And so the more that confidence and understanding the highest quality way is to come in person and having that confidence that our school is safe, that's a bonus for us. I'm also happy to report to this committee that at this time we have had 0, I'm going to knock on wood, 0 suspensions this year. No in-school or out-of-school suspensions have been given. And a big contributor to that is in terms of what we've done through an advisory program and the culture and climate of our building, as well as our administrative team that's had conversations with our students. So I'm really thankful for that. We also have implemented, really aligned practices of what's expected in our classrooms, classroom to classroom. So it's not different in each one. And I think that just helps students learn. And it also makes it less confusing for those students to know where is the line and what are clear expectations in our building. So that's kind of my 5-minute recap, which I think I went way over 5 minutes, so I apologize. But that's where we are right now for our school.
Very good, thank you. And I do want to allow my fellow board members to ask questions and offer comments if they have them. So anybody, Dawn, Woody, go ahead.
Dr. Spera, how do you evaluate the success of your bilingual program? You've increased the staff and everything. How do you measure the results?
Yeah, so that, statistically, that'll be something that we're going to want to look at the lost links, and even how do we even do more assessment than just that winter testing window from January to April. So we're actually seeked out how can we do a similar type of exam to know where our students are. And then we also want to look at how are these students performing in the classroom. So I'm going to be able to know that next year because we're going to be doing language labs. We're going to be implementing a new schedule where students in small groups, anywhere from 6 to 10, will be in a language lab where we'll have a bilingual teacher who will be in there to really help them not just learn the language, but then also understand the content. The problem has been that, and I feel awful. We have students who maybe at a level 1 who really don't have a sound grasp on the English language, but they're also not getting an opportunity to have access to the content. Just because they're not able to speak the language shouldn't mean that they don't have the ability to get the content. With our bilingual assistants and teachers, now we can, in their native language, be able to give them the curriculum content while still balancing the act of how to increase their skills. So to answer your question, one of the things that we're going to see is also how can we also assess their content in their native language if it's appropriate, but also through the lost links, be able to see the increase in those 4 major areas, speaking, writing, listening, in those areas.
I'm curious. Thank you. I'm curious as to how many languages you have that the students speak in your school.
Right. So we have approximately out of 50, only 1 does not speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's
How do you deal with that student?
Well, that student is part of the TESOL program, right? I mean, it's, if I looked at like NFA, North Free Academy, where, Denise was from, they had, close to 40 different languages being taught by just a TESOL teacher. And so the balance of how do you teach it without knowing the language is part of why a TESOL teacher is necessary, So for that student, it's the best practices of what you would do for a TESOL teacher. I mean, the TESOL teacher we had before didn't speak Spanish, and she was the only one. So now I have such a benefit to have, 3 Spanish speakers in a predominantly 98% Spanish speaking program.
great.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Erin, do you have a question or comment?
I do. You had talked about the classroom expectations, how you aligned those classroom expectations. Can you give some examples of what, like if we were to come to see the school, what would we see like common in each classroom? A few examples.
No, that's great. If you don't mind, I want to give Denise and Tanya an opportunity to answer that, daily going in there, not to throw off the question, but they're definitely involved in the day-to-day. Thanks.
I'll start, Tanya, and then if you want to finish up. So, obviously right now being in the cohorts where the kids don't exchange classrooms, they stay. It's very student-centered. It's very, you wouldn't think because you're kind of, you think trapped by, being at your desk. And it's amazing the amount of interactive activities and learning that's going on in the classrooms. I'm amazed when I go in to do observations or just pop in to see how kids are. You're seeing students that are happy. You see students that are using academically productive talk. I mean, to see little 6th graders, 10 and 11-year-olds, having discussion saying, well, I disagree with that statement and this is why, or, backing up their statement. It's pretty amazing. So, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because next year when we can actually, be within 6 feet, teachers are already planning group work by kids staying at their desks. So they're doing these group work activities while at their desk. So when we get some restrictions lifted, they're actually going to be able to be together and forming different things. So just a lot of student-focused work. I hardly ever see teacher up at the classroom lecturing. I just don't see that, which is such an amazing thing.
Thank you.
And to piggyback just really quickly off what Denise said, we, at the beginning of the school year, had a professional development around workshop model where the classroom period is divided into sections, where it eliminates that, what Ms. Dunning was just talking about, that up in the front lecturing style. So it's divided into, a bell ringer or do now, and it's consistent with everybody in the building across grade levels and across curriculum. It also goes into a mini lesson where they're getting information, they're taking notes, they are connecting ideas from the previous day or what they'll be doing in the future, and then they have a work period time where they're actually working with the information that they've just learned. And at the end, a debrief where they bring it all together. So introducing that also helps to structure their class time, and they know what to expect every day. So they feel safer in the sense that if you're sitting in a classroom, you know that once you begin, you're doing that bell ring or do now. You know what's coming next. And so I feel like that also contributed, as well as introducing accountable talk to the students and how they interact with each other to communicate. So increasing the communication is a key piece of that as well. So and I mean, there's a lot that we've done, but that's just, in a nutshell, a few things that we've introduced to the staff.
Do they also, as far as alignment goes, not necessarily exactly how they grade, but what they allow in their grading, is that also aligned? For example, no zero policy, or being able to make up work regardless. Is that aligned with each classroom as well, or somewhat aligned?
It's in the handbook as well.
Okay.
So uniformity across it is. And so it was discussed with the staff so that if a student struggles by the end of the quarter, we're all giving them the belief they could get is a 50. So they can have an opportunity by that final grade to bring up the grade. Okay. Nothing below that is going into their quarter end of grade or final grade.
So there's never a feel of doom. I mean, they always know
that I can never dig out of this hole that I'm in.
It's a light.
I'm talking about your uniformity of grades. The percent that's allocated towards each one is also consistent toward each assignment. So whether it's a quiz, certain amount of points given for that in classwork as well. So that's the teachers have the ability to assign certain points, but there's a range that they can assign for quiz or test or classwork or homework.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Questions or comments?
Just a final comment, Stella. No, I just want to thank you for the presentation. There's a lot of good news that's going on, and my hope is that it will continue come September. Once maybe we
Right.
going to get out of this.
Thank you, Don.
pandemic.
Yeah, thank you.
I might just make one comment. In the short time that Nick has been here, Dr. Spera has been here, I personally feel, and I think
Mr. Spera, I joined my fellow board.
I'm sorry. Could you hear Chairman Muckle? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Oh.
it's my feeling, and I think that I can confidently share this as a feeling of the board, that the progress that we're making, in my opinion, is phenomenal based on years past. I've been on the board for 10 years, and what I'm seeing now personally, and again, is I'm just amazed. Dr. Spera has done a marvelous job. I think that we're making a great deal of progress, and comments that I've had, just quick conversations with Mr. Kelly. I think that he would agree with that. And I certainly hope that the information, the reports that you're hearing today will reinforce that confidence.
Thank you so much. Again, I'm joining my fellow board members in thanking you for a positive progress report and your commitment to continuity in terms of ensuring the solid academic curriculum that addresses the student needs. And I congratulate you also on the bilingual hiring of more teachers to help the students. So that's all very good news. What do you see as your biggest challenge as you move forward in terms of the next few years?
Besides the COVID, can I say COVID? I think it's besides the COVID, it's the continued change, right? We've made some really big changes, and we've had an opportunity to really go slower this year. Well, now we're putting all kids in the school, so now we've been in a hybrid mode, and teachers have had only like 12,
Right.
13 kids in the class, Now we're going back to every single, every single class is a full class and it's live and they're coming to you. And so how do you put the strategies that we're doing kind of going a little bit slower, and how do we make it work so it's an every single day thing? One of the things that we asked our teachers was to have planned things. And so when you ask, how has behavior's been down? Well, if you have really good bell-to-bell planned activities for kids to be engaged for the entire time in that classroom, you're not going to have the behavior problems. And so it's about how do we ensure that happens bell to bell, classroom to classroom throughout the day, and while still continuing the mission of our school. And so, as we continue to grow, I think our biggest pieces is how do we grow the whole faculty together towards the common mission and vision of this school, and making sure that we all truly believe every single student can succeed at high level. And that's where I think is our biggest thing. And I can understand some people can get frustrated and not really believe that, but I've been around too long and seen too many stories where you need to believe that in order for it to happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we thank you and your board chair also for attending today's meeting and for a good progress report. I need to say it because I'm a product of school that didn't have bilingual program, but they thought that having an accent was a deficit. And the way they treated that deficit was sort of remediation. So you can see that I kept my accent, that the approach that they used was so punitive and demeaning that I decided keeping my accent was better than complying with what they were trying to do to me. So I'm just letting you know that that being bilingual is an asset, and when you teach those students to remind them that they know more because they know 2 languages and they can handle 2 languages. So thank you so much again, and a lot of success as you move forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
I might add just one thing quickly. I mentioned the feeling of the board of directors, and Nick and I work very, very closely. And he relates to me, and I see myself, the reaction and the reflection of the staff. And the attitude of the staff here has certainly changed. Teachers, staff, administrators, it's just an amazing thing to see. And I'm very confident that that will continue in the future. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you so much. And again, on behalf of the children and the students, that's very good news. Lisa, anything else? Thank you again, and we appreciate it. Anything else, Lisa?
Thank you.
No, I think we're good. Thank you.
Thank you. Fantastic. So we're going to conclude the meeting, and as a reminder, we'll come back for another debriefing in a few minutes, okay? To my fellow board members. Thank you again.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.